Welcome back to Sepang International Circuit for what will be round 3 of the 2024 TCR Asia Series. The very venue where everything started all the way back in 2015. It's great to be back on track and getting ready for some action on track. Cars still lining up, getting to the grid. Slight delay due to the weather, and we've been very, very lucky in that regard. A few showers in the race immediately before this one, but none of the, touch wood, none of the threatening storms and thunderstorms that were due to hit the circuit around 1 to 2 o'clock. So we managed to dodge that. It appears to be clearing up. Ambient temperature, 30 degrees, feels like 36 degrees. Humidity, those only 50%, which is nice, and starting to drop. Now you can see the wet race sign flashing on the overhead gantry. What we'll do is that will make things very interesting with respect to what choice the drivers make. Now, because it's declared a wet race, they can start on wet weather tyres. Now, experience tells me that Sepang is one of those very, very amazing circuits, and we've seen it in the past where you can have absolutely horrendous torrential rain, and 5 minutes later, well, okay, let's say 10 minutes later, cars will go out on slicks, maybe skate around just finding their feet for the first lap or so, and then follow through to the end of the race without any problems whatsoever. The circuit drains very, very quickly. It's part of being in the tropics. That was part of the design of the circuit. Of course, a Herman Tilke Formula One style format and circuit, first opened in 1999, of course the host of the Malaysian Formula One Grand Prix for a while. Unfortunately, that doesn't happen anymore, but typically in this part of the world, what is very popular is motorbikes. So it's no surprise to hear that effectively outside of the pandemic, it has been the host for MotoGP, and they will return here in early November. There is your pole sitter, and what a stunning job he did in qualifying. He was the winner of race number 1, first round of the championship just a month ago, right here at Sepang. Held off his teammate Max Hart. Max turned the tables on him in the second race, although it was the third of the identical Hyundai N by Z Speed Elantras that took the race victory, that saw the checkered flag first. Now, we shouldn't say took the race victory because, of course, he was outside of his pit box off the start, received a 30-second penalty, and unfortunately for Stallion 1, the South Korean driver, was forced back. Now, there's the man responsible for TCR Asia, a couple of them, in fact. Paul Abbott, who's been a long-time associate of David Sonninger, left of screen, who formerly Motorsport Asia, and has had a very big influence on motorsport in this part of the world. Now, very quickly, these teams are going to have to make a decision whether they will run the new Salem slick tyre or whether they will in fact go to wets. I would hazard a guess, based on that past experience, that they will all opt to run on slick tyres, because there is no threatening weather as much as with the tropics, and the fact that it is still overcast. You can never quite tell. There's the Salem team on the grid, just getting a group photograph. And for TCR competition, this is a world first, because Salem, the Chinese manufacturer, are making a fairly big foray into motorsport. This part of the world is the obvious place to kick things off, and the slicks showed that they did a great job last time round. There is your 15-turn, 5.543 kilometre Sepang International Circuit. Of course, that iconic turn 1, 2 to the outside of turn 2 on the run to 3, of course, near to the left-hand side of the main grandstand at turn 1 is the iconic emblem of Malaysia, the Malaysian flag, much like the very iconic grandstand in the middle of the circuit at turn 15 in the background of the images we're looking at now. We do have track limits issues. Now, that did cost a couple of drivers during the qualifying session, and that did have an impact in the end. So I'm just checking back through the timesheets. Of course, we saw Jindong Zhang, who was just a couple of points behind. In fact, if I go back to my update with respect to the championship points coming into this round, Max Hart was leading on 85 points. His teammate Zhang was second on 82 points. Now, provisionally, based on qualifying, that is now flipped. Jindong Zhang is now leading the championship points on 92 provisionally, again, from Max Hart on 90. And Umar Abdullah is sharing position 3 with Do Yun Huang, who's making that recovery from the setback of that penalty in the opening race for 3rd position. They sit on 65 points. So the outright fight is fairly tight between Hart and Zhang. And those two like nothing more than going wheel to wheel, door to door, and bumper to bumper, as they showed during the opening 2 rounds a month ago. There is Budianto, the sole entry for Audi Sport, the LMS, the RS3 LMS TCR rather. Of course, for those of you who have been following TCR Asia for the 10 seasons, of course we had a setback with COVID, so we lost a couple of seasons in the middle there. But many of you will remember the very first victory anywhere in the world for the new Audi LMS TCR, the RS3 rather, came at Zhuhai International Circuit with Hong Kong teenager Jasper Tong, the younger brother of Sean Tong, who's had some TCR experience, but is more widely renowned for his experience in GT3 and prototype competition in this part of the world. Of course, also competed at the Nürburgring 24-hour race for Audi. Strong family ties. But that was a long time ago. That was back in 2017. And things have certainly changed a little bit in the world since then. This is part of a rebuilding process with TCR Asia again. Due to the global pandemic, things were put a little bit onto the back foot. Additionally, with a region like Asia, unlike the likes of Australia or North America and certainly Europe, it isn't just a matter of deciding you're going to go racing, organise your team, and within a couple of weeks you're mobile in the transporter and the car turns up at the racetrack. Certainly these days with freight, whether it's air freight or international sea freight, decisions need to be made months and months in advance. So that has kept a number of teams from making their debut here in Malaysia. We are expecting a significant jump in numbers already, with new cars heading to Buriram in Thailand at the end of August, and then about 3 weeks later again at Buriram International Circuit, Chang International Circuit in Thailand. And of course, we finish off the season in Ningbo in China in the middle of October. Of course, those drivers lucky enough to qualify through will be invited to race at the Gear Circuit in Macau, arguably one of the best events in the world, certainly in this part of the world. And Max Hart saw victory there last year when he competed on the circuits at Macau. There he is on screen. We'll start from the outside pole. So here the outside running on the run down to turn number 1, and that very tight right-hander into a sweeping left-hander immediately afterwards, and then the fast open turn 3 down to the turn 4 right-hander. Now there's a driver who knows this circuit only too well. Douglas Koo, former TCR Malaysia TCR Cup champion back in 2020. Keen to get going. Done a lot of GT competition in recent years. Was able to bring his beloved Viper Niza Cupra TCR out of the garage for this weekend. Unfortunately, they had dramas, I believe it was gearbox issues yesterday during practice, so lost a lot of track time, and Douglas is just trying to dial his brain back into front-wheel drive 2-litre touring car mode, as opposed to the thunderous V8 GT car that he's been driving most recently. There he is right of screen towards the rear, and unfortunately to his left towards the rear is Do Yun Huang, who unfortunately for him had to have an engine change overnight. So despite qualifying second for this race, will start as a result of that engine change from rear of field. Now, interestingly, going through the data for this weekend, we were looking back at the lap record for TCR cars at Sepang International Circuit. Of course, there's been some resealing done on the facility in recent years, so that has changed things slightly. But what was interesting is the lap record around the circuit was set by Englishman Daniel Lloyd in 2020 with TCR Malaysia, with a 2:16.338 in his Honda Civic FK8. And in practice yesterday, the second practice session, late in the run, it's after about an hour on track, and again in the qualifying session today, we saw laps in the 2:16.2s by Zhengdong Zhang, who was very, very impressive, the Chinese driver, as he battled Max Hart for that top position in qualifying. Just going a bit further down the grid. Now, Max Hart starts alongside, just with that unfortunate setback for Dayan Huang, who had done a very, very impressive job to out-qualify his Irish teammate. He starts from position 10, but it's Zhengdong Zhang on pole position with a 2:16.28. Max Hart, P2 with a 2:17.0. Unfortunately, there was a red flag step into the closing stages of qualifying 2, the second 10-minute session, and that put Hart off. Well, certainly Max was running a hot lap at that stage, as we're just taking a closer look at that beautiful Hyundai Elantra NTCR. Hyundai having had a great deal of success, certainly in past seasons in TCR Asia and absolutely around the world. But Max Hart was unable to improve on a 2:17 dead, so he starts position 2 on the front row. Umar Abdullah, the third of the outright entries, with a 2:17.5. A little bit down on where they would like to have been. They got to within a couple of tenths of Zhang during opening practice yesterday, but haven't been able to find those wholesale gains that Hyundai's have. Of course, he's campaigning the Honda Civic. He will start with the Delta Garage Racing entry, the FL5, from position number 3 alongside Benny Santoso. So he is also part of the Hyundai N by Z Speed operation. As the grid now clears and teams get ready to go around on their form lap and just check what conditions are. Now, we have no real indication from trackside as to who chose what tyres, but I would suggest that all teams would have chosen to run on the Ceylon Podium C PCO1 slick tyre. As we wait for them to get underway. So working down the order, Benny Santoso is the leading TCR Cup entry. He starts in position number 3, so second row on the outside. Position 5, Aaron Wu, number 83 entry of Z Speed Motorsport. Alongside him, position 6, Nan Jiang. Position 7 for Budianto, who runs that beautiful black, red and white JBS Group Racing Audi. We're looking at just a little bit earlier. Position number 8 for Haoji Yang. Position 9 for Douglas Koo. He's also classified now as a TCR Cup entry. And Dayan Huang, who've done such a brilliant job during the second leg of qualifying to get onto the front row, starts from rear of field as a result of that penalty. So 10 cars lining up on grid, windscreen wipers on. Here is the grid. Zhengdong Zhang on pole position alongside his teammate Max Hart. Umar Abdullah and Benny Santoso on the second row of the grid. Jiren Liu and Nan Jiang will start on positions number 5 and 6 for Z Speed. Budianto on position 7. Haoji Yang, Douglas Koo and Dayan Huang round out this field, ready for round 3 of TCR Asia here at Sepang International Circuit. There's Jiang, just heading down towards turn 7 and 8. Track limits have been an issue. We were talking about that earlier. So specifically, keep an eye on turn 6 and 8. Turning out of 8 down the top of the screen, bottom of the circuit there. Windscreen wipers still on, but I'm assessing that that's not so much for anything that we have to worry too much about. Just to clear screens from a little bit of drizzle that teams were facing as they're sitting on the grid. Max Hart getting right into warming up the tyres. And very much a learning experience for a lot of these teams. Certainly we faced the new Ceylon tyre for the opening round of the championship a month ago, right here at Sepang. So there is data from that. Conditions a little bit different this time. So a very clean track. We'll be doing everything can to apply that data. 12 laps race distance had been scheduled earlier as 10 laps. It is in fact 12 laps, so around 30-minute race distance. So the teams are just trying to get themselves up to speed and get that tyre temperature up now. This is something that those of you that watch Formula One regularly will understand. The leader doesn't want to get away too quickly after having put the effort into getting the tyres up to temperature to then sit on the grid and let the tyres go cold. So they want to close the field up and bunch them up to make sure that there's as little time as possible between when the first car hits the grid and is locked into their position and the last car hits their position. Now, one person who you could guarantee will be right inside their pit box, inside their starting box rather, will be Do Yin Wang after the setback that cost him 30 seconds last time round. Getting word from the pit area that there is a little bit of spitting rain. Nothing too much to worry about at this stage. It appears all drivers have chosen slicks, but this is Malaysia. It's the tropics and anything can happen. Zhang just making sure he is well and truly inside his pit box. Standing start, 12-lap race distance. Will they get off the line? Right of screen, Max Hart. Zhendong Zhang, left of screen. These two went hard at it during the opening round. Just waiting for the full field to get into position. The waving of the green flag at rear of field. We're away. Green flag's on, lights on, and we will be underway with round 3 of the 2024 season. Keep a close look at the field. We saw a couple of drivers slow to get away in the second round here at Sepang last time round in red green. Oh, and we had Santoso absolutely stopped. Right back down here. This well and truly opens up TCR Cup. Now, what's interesting is the two drivers at the front of the field. Can Max Hart get enough distance? No, Zhang knows he can keep him out wide. He's going to have to try and stick with him and get to the inside as they get down into the left-hander. Zhang's doing everything he can to force him wide within reason. Oh, a little bit of contact further back, and Abdullah's just spun right in front of the field. Well done to all of them to get around him out of the wet grass. That will be a bit of a problem. So Umar Abdullah just going in a little bit too tight is up front. Zhang is protecting his line. Very racy from Max Hart, side by side into turn 4. Can he hold it? No, he's been forced a little bit wide. And that's left Zhang straight back into the lead. Nice work here by these two. Just what we saw during the last round. Absolutely fantastic racing. That's been one of the hallmarks of TCR Asia over the 10 seasons we've been running. Well, again, we had a small break in the middle, so don't card me on that one. But what brilliant racing it always delivers. We've seen some great racing from Luca Engstler and Panasek Kassiri and Diego Moran and a whole bunch of drivers that have been part of this championship over recent years. And that level of racing continues on. You can see how much distance these two have put between themselves and the rest of the field. Interesting to see just how far back Do Yin Wang is as he works himself back from position number 10 to get into this outright fight. He'll be very keen to get himself back onto the podium. And with Umar Abdullah having had that spin, that's certainly made it a little bit easier. Interesting to see on a replay exactly who that was. It might have been Kyron Yu that was involved in that battle into turn 2. That forced Abdullah wide, and whether it was probably a combination of a lack of grip and just trying to hang on as hard as he could with colder tyres just to maintain that position. Max Hart's trying the oldest motor racing trick in the book. He's on the flashes. Over past seasons, I seem to recall some rule as to whether or not drivers are limited to the amount that they can apply the flash to the driver in front of them. I've not seen too many indications where it has actually ended in a position change. We're talking about Do Yin Wang. I guess he's in position 3 already. And the opening lap, what a storming drive from him, fastest first sector. He's back from his teammates. This is not good news. Look at the right rear of Umar Abdullah's car. He's trying his level best to get back to pit lane. This might be, let's take a close look. So this is the fight at the front of the field. We're taking a close look at that. Look at the battle for second. And what's happened there? Someone's dived right down the inside. It was you, by the look of it. And it's that contact. We often see it in all forms of motorsport, the wheel-to-wheel contact, or certainly corner-to-wheel contact. They're very strong cars, but this is likely a safety car because he is stopped on, looks like the run out of turn 9 to turn 10. He's stopped on circuit. Now, he's doing his best to get back, but that damage is just going to be too severe, I think, to get him back very quickly. Now, these guys are coming through turns 7 and 8 now. They're not too far behind where they will find the stationary Abdullah. Yeah. Safety car lights are on, so these guys will be well aware. Their team will have told them to take it very cautiously through here. There it is, right of screen. Stricken Honda, and that is very, very frustrating. Abdullah was, he certainly started Friday very, very strong with the Garage Racing team. Very happy with the way their team was running. Is there an entry down this weekend? Just a couple of entries due to business commitments. And, that unfortunately has had an impact to the safety car on track. One of the big losses for this round was Daipo Fit Ramadan, who've done such a great job to comfortably leading the outright points in the Cup Drivers classification after the first 2 rounds. But he had a prior commitment this weekend and couldn't be here, or certainly be back for the next round in late August at Buriram International Circuit in Thailand. But that's opened the door for Benny Santoso to take the provisional lead after qualifying. You see Benny's holding position number 5. And Kieran, who was the one who was involved in that contact with Abdullah, is in position number 3. He's 4th on track. You see him there just behind Valiant One. So positions are Jung, Hart, Huang, Yu, Santoso, Yang. Ku's up to position 7. So nice job for Douglas, the local driver, on his return to TCR Asia. Zhang, Yanto, and unfortunately for Abdullah, that will be a DNF because the team's not going to effect repairs on the right rear corner of the car with that much damage quickly enough for him to be back out on track. So let's just hope that the Jazz Motorsport supported Honda crew, the Delta Garage Racing operation, are able to repair that car before we get into race number 2 tomorrow. Now, that's not good news either. Budianto's in pit lane. Well, that's interesting. He may have started. Let's have a close look at this and see whether we can see it. It appears he may have started on wet weather tyres. So unless he's copped some damage somewhere that we haven't seen, let's have a close look. Yeah, he started on wet. So he's decided track's certainly dry enough and he's not really going to lose anything right now. He can join onto the tail end of the field. So that's a good move and probably a bit of a blessing in some respect for the JBS Group Racing entry, to have him able to come into pit lane without too much rush, not losing too much time. The teams are heading down to turn 9. He'll need to get his skates on, get onto the rear end of this field, because I'm suggesting that points are on the safety car. So I'm going to suggest that perhaps put more safety car in again this track. Let's have a close look as we get to that long run down from 14 to 15 as to whether or not the lights go out. But so far, Zhang has proven the star of this weekend. Very impressive during the opening round. No real surprise. I mean, he's had plenty of TCR competition under his belt. TCR China, as has Max Hart. Bit of a debrief there with Paul Abbott. Great to see him back from the UK for this weekend. Resident of Malaysia for a very long time, a big part of Motorsport Asia during its formative years. Spent maybe as many as 20 years in Asia in all forms of motorsport. Very experienced operator. Chief scrutineer for TCR Asia and heavily involved in the technical side of things. And the lights are still on as we come to the last corner. Unless something's changed in the international rules about the lights being on or off, certainly it looks like the safety car is gone. Looks like we're back under action. Now, great action in the pits. We're probably watching yourself on the live stream at the moment. What we really want to see is the action on track. No, okay, so they just let the safety car get ahead to perhaps put a little bit of warmth in the tyres. one more lap to go in all likelihood. We go racing again with what would be 8 laps left on the clock. Effectively, we're starting about how we would have expected. And for Max Hart, well, he's doing everything he can to apply pressure to his teammate, General Zhang. Knows Zhang has got a slight edge on him this weekend. It was probably a bet each way in the first round of the championship. They both took a race win. Zhang in the opening race, Max Hart in the second race, although it was Wang who actually crossed the line first. Now that was a reverse grid race. So that saw Wang start from the front row, whilst Zhang and Hart had to work their way through from the 5th row of the grid. Now this time round, they are all line astern with what will be 8 laps to go. And Wang's certainly shown himself to have some strong pace. Hart has effectively been the second quickest, only been a couple of tenths down on Zhang at various stages, but that's the key, isn't it? He was a couple of tenths down. Now we see windscreen wipers on Kiren Liu's car. The Z Motorsport entry there in 4th position, the red, white and gold entry. In fact, windscreen wipers on all the cars? No, I think it's just Kiren Liu who has the wipers going. A bit of activity down in pit lane. And conditions like this, let's be honest, it does force a little bit of pressure onto the engineering crew, because they're trying to assess exactly what to do. Certainly if there's a rain squall, but to tune the cars too. No, Zhang's got his windscreen wipers on, so there might be a little bit of rain for the teams to consider. So the temperature's gone in the tyres. Interesting to see just how much effect that has on how hard the drivers push. Now we saw Zhang and Hart push very, very hard in that opening couple of laps, so much so that they had a good 5 to 6 seconds on the field by the time the safety car was called. They were really pushing very hard at the front of the field. Remember that they are experienced campaigners when it comes to TCR competition. They are in the outright category. The other drivers are in the TCR Cup category, which is set for drivers who they have experience. Predominantly, a lot of these guys have done production car style racing, like the Malaysian Championship Series, which is also running here this weekend. The Indonesian drivers, of course, in their own home country. Fabulous circuit built in Indonesia now, so they've got some great racing ahead of them. They will certainly build their stock in this part of the world, and great to see so many Indonesian drivers in the field. Safety car is off. Lights are off. That's the indication we will go racing. What will Zhang do? Well, what he's done is basically brought everybody to a stop. Now he's on the throttle. Is he on the throttle? Yes, I can see a little bit of exhaust coming from the car. He's away, so green light. 8 laps to go. Zhang, Hart, Wang, Yu doing what he can. Look at Dayan Wang applying as much pressure as he can to Max Hart. Max almost been caught a little bit napping, but he's got the inside. Young Irish driver, he's got good experience. Won at Macau last year, Formula V champion in his home country. So he's been doing this a fair while. He knows how to make these cars work too. Very successful too in TCR China last year, as was his Chinese teammate, who's doing everything he can to open a gap. This is where experience pays. When the conditions are a little bit sketchy, if you know how to maximise your performance in these cars, you'll be able to pull a bit of an edge on the other drivers around you. And I expect to see that these guys will have a good couple of seconds on certainly the likes of Liu. Wow, Max Hart really threw it in coming through turn 5. That was a very impressive run, just letting the car drift across the circuit. Because the races are so short, they're not really that concerned about the tyre wear. And Benny Santoso, who dropped back a little bit early, is right on the boil. Now, these two are effectively 1 and 3, but the 2 top contenders in TCR Cup. Santoso dives up the inside. What a great crossover. Brilliant move. Holds him out too and takes the position away. So that is for the lead of TCR Cup. And for Santoso, he's looking at his 3 teammates immediately in front of him. Because all 3 of these drivers with Hyundai N by Z speed. Santoso was leading despite the fact he's got a different livery. He's having a good hard think about whether or not he can make the outright podium. Oh, that's a tight move. You want to be very careful. The team boss will be having kittens about now, just to see what they can do. That was a very nice run by Santoso, but for Huang. He's gone from hassling Max Hart for position 2 to now having to defend from his TCR Cup teammate. Santoso doing everything he can to get onto the outright podium, but Huang's really got it organised. The South Korean driver just protecting the inside to make sure he holds that position. The Indonesian driver, side by side, is in the wrong spot each time. Now, if he can hold to the outside through 1, which is effectively unlikely, he might get the crossover into 2, but no, it's not going to happen. Unless he can make a big dive down the inside here, but again, their teammates, no doubt they'll be under instruction to make sure that they finish the race. Fight hard, no contact, keep it clean, do what you need to do. Now, this has allowed the drivers at the front to get away. We're talking about a 4 or 5 second lead of the outright drivers over the TCR Cup drivers, for which Santoso is the leading driver in the Cup classification at the moment. And we're out by 6.2 seconds, the split from Daehyun Huang and Benny Santoso to race leader Jindong Zhang at the front of the field. Max Hart 1.2 seconds down now. The 2:18.4, it's not a bad lap after the restart. Last time out for Zhang. By contrast to 2:18.7 for Max Hart. And this is where Daehyun Huang lost a little bit of time in trying to protect himself from Benny Santoso. 2:23, that's where the time was lost. So Santoso into the 22s. RNU, a third of those cars on screen. One gold entry, in down the side, Z Speed. Motorsport is in this battle too. This is a two-way battle. 1 to get onto the outright podium, 2 to take victory in TCR Cup. Daehyun Huang's having all sorts of drama, just getting away from those 2 behind him. Of course, all in identical cars. The Cup classification. Oh, it's a testy move from Santoso. He's just gone a little bit wide. Left Huang absolutely nowhere to go. When that's done, is open up an advantage for Santoso. And quite likely, Huang's going to be better off being at the tail of this field than focusing on eyes forward. At the moment, he's focusing on what's in his rear vision mirror, and that's cost him genuine time. He is very close, mere tenths off the pace of the race leaders who are just disappearing off into the distance. Now, as we get to the timing line, it'll be very interesting to see just how much this is costing Daehyun Huang, who is capable of running within tenths of the pace of the leaders. They're now 12.8 seconds, so talking 2 seconds down from the race leader. 2:17.9 now, fastest lap for Jindong Zhang. Here's this passing move again down at turn 14. Well, that's not bad. I mean, so far as race moves go, he's missed the apex by a country mile, but effectively what he's done is he's maintained speed into the corner, and Huang's given him some racing room, and Santoso has benefited from that very, very nicely. So half the race over, half the race still yet to go, as the great Murray Walker would say. Up front, car number 18, and certainly the Hyundai N by Z Speed team are the standouts. Wipers just still working. Again, track drains very, very quickly, but with not having rain to actually worry about the track having to drain. It's just a little bit of dampness in the air. It's still not particularly high, despite the fact we're seeing a little bit of drizzle, so comfort for the teams will be perhaps better than it was last time we were here. In the thick of battle, as now Kiran Yu looks to try and make a passing move on Daehyun Huang, who again is probably too caught up in trying to battle these TCR Cup drivers as opposed to just focusing eyes forward. In his second lap, after the safety car had pulled in, 2:25. By contrast, you've got both Zhang and Hart running in the high 2:17s, the low 2:18s. It's costing him 5 or 6 seconds a lap. And you can't afford to do that when you want to be in the outright competition. You made the statement after qualifying that, yes, the penalty putting in starting rear of field as a result of the engine change, that is one thing. He really feels that he has the pace to take it to the outright leaders in the championship. And he's shown that through practice and qualifying that, well, he qualified in this race P2, just a couple of tenths off Zhang. And here he is at the moment, battling with TCR Cup entries, 6 or 7 seconds off the pace, unless, of course, he has an issue. That's the one thing we don't have the data of, as the teams are watching this from down in pit lane. A lot of force for the Z-Speed operation, Z-Speed Motorsport and the Hyundai N by Z-Speed team. Two camps battling. This is an outright contender battling a TCR Cup contender. TCR Cup entrants, okay, they're running the same equipment, but they're lesser experienced drivers in the field, hence the outright classification and TCR Cup. So really, that just shows again, as Santoso really has got the bit between the teeth. He will be absolutely loving this. Not only is he facing victory in TCR Cup and maximum points, but he's also going to shuffle himself onto the podium as things stand now with 5 and a bit laps to go. Kyren Liu is absolutely all over the back of Do Yin Wang, whilst up front, and he almost admitted it during his interview post-qualifying. Max Hart just doesn't have the edge at the moment to take the fight to Zhendong Zhang. Again, these two guys had victory in TCR China last year, so they are very competitive. Back to this battle for what is position number 4 now. Incredible to see that Do Yin Wang was battling with Max Hart at the start of this race. Now, does that suggest he's got a problem, or does that suggest he's unfortunately still driving on the rear vision mirror? Whether he's overstepped himself there on the run into turn 9, or whether he actually has a genuine problem, no doubt we'll find out afterwards. Stay tuned with the various social media platforms. We're on X, we're on Instagram, we're on Facebook, of course. You're watching this on YouTube all around the world. Thank you for joining us. It really is a thrill to be back with TCR Asia competition after the various setbacks as a result of the global pandemic. Certainly ended the season 2019 with a lot of interest and a lot of opportunity. That opened up into a second season of TCR Malaysia. Unfortunately, the world changed an awful lot after that point. 2:23.7 best lap for Kyren Liu. He's got ahead of the man who qualified for this race with a time of 2:16.6, would you believe? But unfortunately for Do Yin Wang, he's just crossed the line again. He's clocked another 2:25.3. The leaders are out in 2:18.0. Fastest lap so far, 2:17.8. Zhendong Zhang, the race leader. 2:18.1 for his rival Max Hart, who was leading the points coming into this event. Budianto, who we saw make that pit stop, a tyre change, and that's worked out very, very nicely for the JBS Group Racing entry. He's now up to position number 6. He is next in line behind Do Yin Wang, and that puts him as position number 3 and onto the podium for the TCR Cup. So the Audi Sport driver will be very, very happy with that. Behind him, Nanjiang and Haojiang. 2 extra Z-Speed Motorsport entries are battling for position. And, you can see from their pace too, they're running in the 2:25s. Kyren Liu, who is their teammate, also running in he's broken into the 2:22s now, so that battle with Do Yin Wang's actually fired him up. So he's found some good pace. Wang's doing 2:25s. He's actually slower than a number of the drivers behind him, so he's got to be very careful he doesn't drop further back. So let's hope he doesn't have too much issues. Certainly, we don't want to see him with an engine issue. Had an engine issue after the practice sessions yesterday. Sorry, I'm just getting a notification. There's been a slight update on race distance. We do have a little bit more racing to come. I'm making an assessment based on laps behind safety car. So it's racing laps that may see an adjustment. We'll get an update on that shortly as Zhang continues to do what he's doing. Now, quite likely, because he's an experienced campaigner, Max Hart's thinking, okay, well, that's today done. We're doing reverse top 8 grid tomorrow. So I'll be starting from the 3rd row, whilst my teammate will be starting from the 4th row rather, and that might give me the opportunity to turn tables if I can get through the traffic a little bit quicker. And we saw that during round 2. Again, reverse top 10 at that stage. And both Zhang and Hart were through the field very, very quickly and chasing down their teammate, Day Huang. They did cross the line immediately behind him. So whilst they were able to close the distance, because it took them a little bit of time, a few corners in fact, probably half a lap to get through the pack, they were very racy. But Hart critically stayed ahead of Zhang. So he'd be thinking, well, I can turn the tables on him again tomorrow. This is a long championship. This is only race 3 of 10. Oh, you see just how hard Hart was pushing. I'm suggesting on one hand that he's taking it easy. That defies all that logic. He's not taking it easy. Absolutely threw the thing sideways through turn 7. So he's still pushing as hard as he can. What that then suggests is Zhendong Zhang really has found something very special this weekend in what is an identical car to all intents and purposes, and is driving brilliantly, the Chinese driver. So full credit to him to be extending that lead out to 3.2 seconds. The gap now back to Benny Santoso from Max Hart is 16.5 seconds. Remembering again that he is a TCR Cup entry. Weight transfer, just bringing the right rear to lose traction with the ground as they tip into turn 14. Great images coming from Sepang. Just rode the curb a little bit high. I wonder whether that's just thrown him off a fraction. The curbs are there to serve a purpose, and often with the modern race cars, TCRs are a little bit different. They've got a bit of suspension compliance, but you don't want to be riding the curbs because that can just push you offline. And when you're talking about mere millimetres, to be on the optimal race line to affect the best lap time, you don't want to be pushing yourself out car lengths. Well, it didn't look really too bad for Max Hart. Right on board with the TCR Cup race leader, the Indonesian driver, Benny Santoso. Also for Hyundai N by Z Speed. Impressive lap at 2:20.3. Go back to his qualifying effort. Santoso, the second session was at the 2:18.3. So much like the outright drivers, he's down a bit on his qualifying pace. Doesn't need to push too hard. Not an awful lot to gain at the moment, especially with his rivals 18 seconds further up the field, and he's comfortably holding position. In fact, I can't see RMU at all. He's about 10 seconds back from Santoso, so another stellar performance for the Hyundai N by Z Speed operation. Positions 1, 2, 3 and 5 as it stands at the moment. And again, we're looking forward to the next round of the championship, 23rd to the 25th of August at Chang International Circuit, Buriram in Thailand. Expecting a large influx of new teams. Just from teams in Thailand, certainly, others in Malaysia and Indonesia. So with the addition of the new circuit in Indonesia, that has opened up an awful lot of interest in this level of competition. Certainly a lot of those drivers have been competing in the Malaysian Championship Series and other production car championships in this part of the world. The Thais do love TCR. Going back a number of years to Kandasaka Kasiri. He was the champion in 2017. His brother also a very handy competitor, but the two of them, certainly Kennedy is still running in touring car competition. He has done some GT racing over recent years. Kandasaka also competing in GT competition, the two Thai brothers, but very popular in Thailand. Of course, in past years, we've been to the iconic Bang Sen Grand Prix. Not so much this year. 2 races, 3 weeks apart at Buriram. 3 laps remaining. So we have readjusted the lap score to eliminate those safety car laps. Ensure that the drivers do receive their full quota of 12 racing laps. So that's great news. Whether it affects the racing too much, well, the rain stayed away. That's important. The race guide tends to suggest that the two drivers who were the pace setters during the opening round have done the same thing again. As for this driver, well, Do-Yeon Hwang, South Korean driver, he'd be very happy to be racing with Hyundai. And the Z Sport team will be interested to see just what's transpired for him during the course of this race. Certainly started strongly, applying maximum pressure to Max Hart during the opening lap, and then very quickly dropped right back down the order. As we see now, Budianto's not that far behind him. In fact, 8 seconds behind. Budianto last time round circulated with a 2:22.7. Do-Yeon Hwang's in the low 2:24s, so at 1.3 seconds a lap and a 7.5 second deficit. I don't think Budianto is going to be able to make much of a change there, but Hwang's going to have to just carry on battling whatever issue he has, which currently sees him turning laps with 6, 7, 8 seconds off the pace he showed during qualifying. So quite likely that's not a concern about, we were talking earlier about whether he's focusing too much on the drivers around him that were forcing their way through, and that put him offline a few times, or whether he is actually battling the bigger issue with that car, and that has just put him back down the order. No dramas for his teammate. Delivery might look the same, but that in fact is on his way to what would be a second win in TCR Asia. Won the opening round. His teammate Max Hart was second. Hart turned the tables on him in the second round. It very much looks like a 1-2 again, with Jung being the victor once more. Commentator's curse is a real thing, so I think I'll just stop talking about that right now so we don't have any impact on the outright result. But a nice job by Hyundai and by Z Speed. It'll be another 1-2-3, but it'll be Benny Santoso this time who joins the outright drivers and his teammates on the podium. Do-Yeon Hwang continues to battle that issue that has dropped him further back down the order. Now, as he crosses the line, and he hasn't done that yet, so he really is labouring. He's now 50 seconds off the race lead. What's interesting is, where's Budianto? Budianto is now 4.5 seconds behind him, so he's pulled in 3 seconds on the last lap. So the Audi driver really has an opportunity at his feet. What can he do to try and get himself further in this race? Now, really, he's not going to be fighting Hwang for outright position, because Hwang is an outright competitor. Yes, in the outright classification, he may well finish 5th instead of 6th, but the drivers he's racing for TCR Cup, they are a little bit further up the road. In fact, 17 seconds to Kyron Yu, number 83 entry for Z Speed Motorsport. So a little bit too much work there for Budianto to do, but this will be confidence building if he can manage to haul in Do-Yeon Hwang and move himself forward. Benny Santoso will be very happy with this result. This will move him into the outright lead of TCR Cup provision, as we have to classify the overall results to ensure that they are correct. Keep an eye on TCR Asia Official on Facebook, and also on Instagram, and TCR Asia on X.com, as we keep you abreast with movements on this rebuilding year for TCR Asia in 2024. Last lap board is out. Advantage is 5 seconds. Across the line with a 2:19.2, a 2:19.3 for Max Hart. Very little still separating these two drivers. For Hart, he's probably, well, I think fairly early in this race, he'd probably given up the chance to move further forward. He's going to be holding down comfortably position number 2. Important points, not too much excessive wear on the car. So we see Douglas Koo, the Viper Niza Racing driver, a local driver from Malaysia, making his return to TCR competition for this weekend. He's struggling a little bit further back, suffered a gearbox issue during practice, didn't quite get the best of things in qualifying, and moved himself up into the top 6 early in this race, but now classified back down in position 9, and now a lap down on the race leader who's just gone past him. Max Hart, no doubt, has also taken the Malaysian driver. But a stunning effort from Chen Dongjiang, who really has put his name on on the list of drivers to be serious contenders for the championship victory this year. If he can keep a performance up like this, you would likely say he may well move into favouritism for the championship over his younger rival, Max Hart. Oh, this could be a position change. This is Young and Young further back. It's the last lap. It's the last opportunity. They've given each other a little bit of racing room. And Haoji Young just takes the position away. Nanjung will be looking to try and right that wrong before the end of this lap. We are on the last lap. That is your race leader, Zhendong Zhang, as he storms from 14 to 15. Max Hart comfortably in position 2. Benny Santosa comfortably in position 3. Kyron Yu in position number 4. And Do Yun Wang is only a bit over a second ahead of Budianto, 1.8 seconds last time out. So this could be very, very tight to the line. Budianto doing everything he can. There's the nod to his team. He sends the checkered flag. Zhendong taking number 2 out of 3 so far in TCR Asia for 2024. Max Hart, who's the points leader coming into this round, takes position number 2, provisionally of course. Closes the gap down to 3 seconds, but Zhang had him comfortably. Their teammate, and will take top honours in the TCR Cup. Santoso, the Indonesian driver. What a great drive by him, forcing his way through. He earned this one on day 1 early in this race. Crosses the line in position number 3 to stand on the outright podium. We'll see him fairly shortly. Kyron, oh no! After all that work that Budianto had done to work himself onto the tail of Do Yun Wang, stops in the very same spot that Umar Abdullah came to a stop. It's on the run up to turn 10. The left-hander. What frustration for him. So Wang hangs on to position number 5 in all likelihood. Just crosses the finish line now. Budianto, what frustration for the Audi driver. Had done such a brilliant job. Started on wet weather tyres because it was a little drizzly at the start of the race. Pitted during that safety car period, took himself to the back of the field, worked his way back up to 6th with 5th right in front of him. And unfortunately, you'll see him just here to right a screen, I'd expect. Oh no, maybe he's got things moving. No, there he is. Just to right a screen, he has come to a stop on the last lap as Max Hart. Thanks the many officials around this fantastic 5.5 kilometre Sepang International Circuit. Benny Santoso, what a great job from the Indonesian driver to put himself on top in the TCR Cup classification. Great thing is we get to do this all over again tomorrow. Weather's expected to be warm and dry. 12:10 p.m. local time will be kickoff. So check your local time zone just to ensure that you don't miss the action. Of course, you can keep up to date with all the social media platforms as we continue to build the profile this season of TCR Asia. And great to be back and racing with you. And we hope you can join us as we go through the season. We're off to Buriram in Thailand, August 23 to 25 for the 3rd event on the calendar. The 4th event, just 3 weeks later, 13th to the 15th of September, again at Chang International Circuit in Buriram. Then off to China, a return to Ningbo Speed Park on the 11th to the 13th of October. And for some of the drivers in this field, we will also see them in the invitational event, non-championship race on the 14th to the 17th of November at the Gear Circuit in Macau. One of the very best events in the world, certainly one of the most iconic events in this part of the world. Zhang returns to pit lane and to the applause of the Z-Speed team who have done such a brilliant job. 1-2 again. Max Hart already having made his way back to Park Ferme. The Chinese driver. What a great result. He'll be very happy with that. To see Benny Santoso, Indonesian driver, joining the Chinese driver and the Irish driver on the podium. very happy with that. Just of course the overhanging issue of what transpired with Do Hyun Won. Nothing too much to worry about for Jindong Zhang. What a brilliant job. Very happy with that, and so he should be. Congratulations from Max Hart. A little subdued, but understandable. He just didn't have the pace of his teammate this time. There was nothing separated them. They were banging doors and bumpers in the opening round. They were banging doors and bumpers in the second round. There was very little, as they say in the classics. He could have thrown a handkerchief over them. They were that close, but unfortunately, in this one, it really was all down to Zhang. Hopefully we will hear from him very, very shortly as to how he was able to put that away.
Okay, Zhang. Okay, Zhang. Okay, from pole to flat, how was your race?
Yeah, then on the first moment, I touch a little bit with the others, but finally I go back, and yeah, I lead the whole race. I think it's a good result for me.
How about the track condition for you?
Yeah, it's good. First of all, we decided to change the weight or slick. Finally, I decided to put the slick. So yeah, seems we are success. Yeah.
For the first few laps, so Mac pushing behind you. So you worry about that?
Yeah, it's okay. It's a very good fight, but before the safety car out, he hit my back. But it's a touring car, you know, and I think it's okay. Yeah.
Well done, good job.
Thank you.
So now we come for the second driver for Max Hart, all the way from here. Yeah. Hi, Max. Hi, Max. Tell me about your race.
Yeah, it was good. I certainly didn't have the pace today to be able to catch Dong Dong, but tomorrow's another day, and I start ahead of him. So yeah, I'm looking forward to tomorrow. You know, it's going to be a good race. That was a good race there. It's never a bad day when you're on the podium. So I'm a lucky man to be able to do what I love to do, and it's all thanks to my sponsors. You know, these guys, they've been helping me out big time to get me on the grid. All these guys, especially O'Driscoll's Irish Whiskey. You know, they're a big sponsor of mine, and yeah, I'm just a lucky lad. Yeah.
All the best for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, back to you, Sean. Max, one more.
Lucky lad indeed. And there are the results to just confirm how we finished this one off. Still provisional. As I can hear, Casey's still looking to try and get some more interviews there in the background. But Jindong Zhang takes the win over Max Hart, Benny Santoso, Kieran Liu, Do Hyun Won, Haoji Yang, Nanjing, Budianto, Douglas Koo, and Umar Abdullah, who unfortunately was a DNF after that early contact. TCR Cup, there we are. Benny Santoso takes the win over Kieran Liu and Haoji Yang. Nanjing and Budianto, Douglas Koo round out the 6 for TCR Cup.
Benny, before that you say you want the top 3 on the overall. Now
yes,
finally
right.
you managed, right?
Yes, right. That's why last time I told you my target is overall top 3 on the overall, right? Right now I'm already reached this one.
So tell me, how was your race?
Actually, it's not so good because I have a stall in the start procedure. I have stall, and then I from the back, and thanks God I can back to on the front.
All the best.
Yes, thank you so much.
To the highlights of round number 3 of the championship. Windscreen wipers on, a little bit of drizzle in the area, and ultimately that didn't have a big effect, although as it turned out, We did find that Budianto had started. He was one of the drivers who started on wet weather tyres. There was what Benny Santoso was just talking about, a horrible start. Dropped him almost to rear of field as Do Yun Huang, who did start rear of field, worked his way forward. Now, a little bit of contact here in turn 2. And unfortunately for Umar Abdullah, who was one of the outright competitors, the Delta Garage Racing Honda facing the wrong way on the exit, but a broken right rear wheel ultimately would bring the race under the control of the safety car. So it was a 1-2-3 for the Hyundai N by Z Speed operation at the close of the first lap. And then on the restart, Benny Santoso muscled his way through on Do Yun Huang. It looked like it was on pace, but as it turned out, Huang was about 6 to 7 seconds a lap off his qualifying and practice pace. So certainly an issue for the South Korean driver. No such issue for Santoso, who was very keen to be on the podium and worked his way forward in the race. Max Hart doing what he can. You can see just how much attitude the car had. It looked like he was just sitting comfortably in position number 2, but in reality, what he was doing was trying his hardest to stay the gong and do what he could to apply pressure to his Chinese teammate. But in the end, Zhang was just far too solid. Arguably the best run of the season so far in an outright sense. And there he takes victory comfortably from Max Hart, his teammate, and puts himself well and truly into the top spot in the championship points. Of course, we get to do it all over again tomorrow. Benny Santoso, very impressive run for him to get himself back onto the podium. And this time, an outright podium. We'll see him twice. We'll see him on the outright podium. We'll see him also in the TCR Cup podium. So again, stick with us. We'll be off to the podium very, very shortly. But make sure you stay with us for the remainder of this championship. This is just race 3 of 10. Race 4 comes tomorrow, midday local time here in Malaysia. I'm expecting to see any wet weather for tomorrow's race. The predictions so far are for a dry day, temperatures in the low 30s, humidity around 50%. So not too bad condition-wise for the teams. Then we head off 23rd to the 25th of August to Buriram in Thailand for the 3rd event in the calendars, round number 5 and 6. Round 7 and 8, just 3 weeks later, 13th to the 15th of September at Buriram. Then a month later, we head to Ningbo Speed Park in China, 11th, 13th of October, and that will see the final 2 races of the season, rounds 9 and 10. And an invitational race at TCR Circuit in Macau over the 14th to the 17th of November. It's a race where Max Hart saw victory last year, and certainly he and Zhang will be keen to impress upon the world just how good they are in these TCR cars as we head back there a little later this season. But certainly no denying just what a great job that the Z Speed operation has put into this championship so far. Another 1-2-3. Santoso getting onto the podium and taking top honours in TCR Cup. Unfortunately for the other outright contenders, Do Yun Huang and Umar Abdullah, they went to the podium. There they are. Here's the outright podium. Centre. And then Zhang, left the screen. Max Hart, accepting the 3rd place trophy. Santoso, what a great drive from him.
From Indonesia.
Very happy with that result. Great to be up on the
in second
podium,
place,
used
Max
by so
Hart
many
from
Formula One
Ireland.
greats over so many years. An Irish driver, awarded a good second position. Finished no worse than second this year. And with his second win of 3, he has finished no worse than second either. And Zhang takes the top spot and top honours. Outright podium for TCR Asia Series 2024, round number 3. Thanks to Saelyun. Looking forward to getting some more data on the Chinese manufactured tyre as we go through this season. Certainly has done a fantastic job when you consider that already these teams are just two tenths rather off the actual lap record here at Sepang International Circuit, set by Daniel Lloyd back in 2020. The fastest race lap was set in race 2 as a 2:16.2 in the second. Sorry, that was in practice 2. So the fastest race lap prior was a 2:18 dead. I've just lost the timing screen, just as I was looking with great interest at that information. Let me see if I can just bring it up here. And the fastest race lap was a 2:17.8. So that is your new benchmark, of course, set by Zhenlong Zhang. So a great outright podium, and that paves the way for what will be a strong day tomorrow, as you heard from Max Hart just earlier. Had to settle for second in this one, but he will certainly be looking for outright victory tomorrow and will start the row immediately ahead of his teammate. We'll start from the third row in the reversed grid top 8 for round 4 tomorrow afternoon. Start from midday. Make sure you join us for that one. We will go on to TCR Cup podium. And this one should see Hao Young, who made that great move on Nanjiang just into turn 2. Well, it was into 1, but certainly sealed it on the exit of turn 2. And Santoso will take top honours for TCR Cup. Kyron Yu in position number 2. And his Z-Speed Motorsport teammate, Hao Young, will take position number 3.
The prizes to the winners. In third place, Yang Haoji from China.
Nice haul of trophies. Benny Santoso. Position number 3.
In second place, Yu
for
Kiran
Hao
from
Young.
China.
Kyron Yu, who had that contact
And the
at
winner,
the start of the
Benny
race
Santoso from
with
Indonesia.
the unfortunate Umar Abdullah. And it wasn't nasty contact, but what it did was it just broke the left rear of the car. That unfortunately was enough to put Umar Abdullah out of the race. He couldn't get any further than turn 9, stopped on track, forced a safety car intervention, and that made the race a little bit longer. So there is your podium for TCR Cup, round number 3 of TCR Asia. Benny Santoso, Kyron Yu and Hao Young. Make sure you join us tomorrow, 12:15 p.m. local time here at Sepang in Malaysia for round 4 of 2020 for TCR Asia.
Open the champagne.